Well, thanks, Shalini, for joining today. Today's conversation is kind of around finance bots that work 24/7 and gaining a CFO's perspective. And first question for you. So, your finance bots now work while everyone sleeps. How big of a productivity boost has that delivered for you guys?
It's been quite transformational, actually. Routine finance tasks run overnight. So by morning, the team has to just come in and look in and into exceptions or kind of focus on judgment calls that need to be made. When we first implemented overnight automation, it was almost like adding 5 to 7 virtual FTEs without increasing the headcount. And we saw almost a 40% drop in cycle time. So it was quite huge. And I've had conversations with peers in global shared services. I used to run global shared services in PNG, so I still chat with my colleagues around the globe. And they the ones who have been brave enough to adopt bots, they're seeing this dynamic too. Bots reconciling while teams are sleeping, and then kind of handing it off as a ready to review set of items by morning.
Sure. And what actually happens overnight on the invoice front?
So invoices arriving at midnight don't just sit in the inbox anymore, right? For someone to come look at it in the morning. The bot will extract, match, code, and post them before like just like right after midnight by like 12:05 a.m. So when the AP logs in at 8, there's only a few flagged issues left. Anything that's kind of an exception or needs intervention to be looked at. We've kind of seen huge efficiencies from this. At one of my biotech clients, we actually cut invoice backlog from 3 days to same day posting. It completely changed the whole vendor satisfaction and spend visibility aspect of things at that client.
And how does the round the clock operation improve sales tax validation for you?
The big difference is like tax validation happens in real time instead of the next day. So, discrepancies never reach the GL. Again, like I had mentioned, invoices that land at midnight are extracted, matched, coded, and posted, like right after midnight. And then when AP starts in the morning at 8 o'clock, they deal only with flagged issues. Typically there'll be half a dozen, sometimes more, depending on the situation. But we've got like recurring use tax overcharges at multiple vendors, and they might be small per invoice, but at one of the companies that I advised, it saved over 200,000 in avoided leakage. I mean, that's a big number for an SME. So each transaction is almost like tax audited before it's booked, thanks to these bots.
And month-end accruals used to be chaos. What's different now for you?
The accrual copilot is a game changer, right? It automatically books and reverses journals as invoices flow. Um, Even if it's kind of 11:59 on the last day, and when we piloted this, it shortened our close by a whole day. I mean, a whole day, that's a lot of time, and
Yeah.
eliminated late night manual accruals as well. My controller was the happiest person on earth.
Vendor onboarding is another bottleneck. How does the 24/7 bot working help?
We used to lose days validating, W-9s and banking info. Now, a supplier uploads, say, early morning, at 2 a.m. Procurement is already ready, has a verified vendor and a ready PO. This kind of automation has saved us a lot of hours. And in big companies, like, if I think of prior jobs I've done, like at Iron Mountain, we used to have like, over 10,000 vendors across all of North America. I mean, something like this would have saved us countless hours,
Sure.
back then, or even
And
now
just
if they want to implement it.
describe payment reconciliation outside of office hours.
So the way the process works is the bank files land at about 3 a.m. The payment co-pilot matches and posts the cash clearing. So essentially, Treasury comes in to a zero difference cash book every morning at 9 a.m. Um, when I implemented this daily bank reconciliations through automation at a client, it freed up 15% of their finance team's time, and provided like CFO level visibility into cash positioning first thing every morning. So that was that's something which typically takes my team's days to kind of pull together. So it was a huge efficiency, and it was almost like a breakthrough from a productivity standpoint.
Sure. Very important aspect of it. And a proactive payment timing, what would be your recommendations?
Um, I would say this is where AI gets exciting, right? The bot continuously scans for early pay discounts. We once captured a 2,500 saving on a 250K invoice over a holiday weekend. That's a small example, but multiplied over hundreds of invoices, it's real working capital value creation, right? Not just efficiency. And we all know in finance, cash is king. So anything that we can do from being able to kind of increase the receipt of cash is always like a huge thing for us. You can ask any CFO, any controller, any finance leader, and you'll get the same sentiment.
Yep. And where do humans fit in when the bots run 24/7?
So bots do the heavy lifting, but humans do the sense making, right? We're finance, we trust but verify. So I like to call it like the 80/20 shift. 80% of the time used to go in gathering the data. Now that 80% goes towards interpreting and deciding and helping drive the right decisions for the company. The what I've seen like overnight bots queue mismatches early in the morning, when approvers come in at 8 or 9, they see a concise list with like context and links. So they need to kind of verify it and then just step in for exceptions or strategic calls. So today humans don't have to kind of do all the grunt work behind the scene. They can just kind of handle judgment calls, and that's what drives the real ROI, right? Because finance teams can contribute in so many different parts of the business, right? I can essentially reuse these, my analysts who used to spend time doing all this manual work to kind of help sales drive more top line and help grow the company. That's one example, but there's many other places where they can help with a lot more strategic work.
Sure. And what kind of morning report do you receive?
It's great. There's a concise Teams or email digest. Invoices processed, invoices reconciled, exceptions flagged. It's all included in that. It feels like getting almost like a night shift handoff from like a virtual finance team that never sleeps. So, as a CFO, that allows me to just kind of start my day already informed versus kind of waiting for updates or chasing my team to give me updates.
Yeah, already ahead of things. And
Mm-hmm.
how does Hyperbots 24/7 bot coverage compare with competitors' time windows?
Talking to my CFO peers and other finance leaders here in the Northeast community, what I'm finding out is most vendors still run, bad jobs. Like tax checks are done once a day, vendor validations, are done during office hours. Hyperbots operates in a continuous mode across AP, not only AP, tax, payments, and accrual. So it's, it's almost like it's running 24/7, right?
Yeah. And do rivals charge extra if you want off-hour processing?
Yes, that's definitely the case. And that's where Hyperbots is differentiated. I've seen competitors charge 25 to 30% more for premium schedules. Hyperbots, builds this follow the sun schedule, right? Like 24/7 coverage into the core value proposition, not as an add-on.
And can you throttle bots to business hours only if needed?
Yeah, absolutely. Audit and IT love that toggle. You can pause during, maintenance or blackout periods. In one engagement, we used it during an ERP cutover to control transaction timing without like disabling the entire process. So I think that's great to have that ability.
Yeah. And any real world incident that proved that value for you?
Yeah, like the we during a long weekend, our bot picked up an early pay discount that saved us 2,500 overnight. Nobody even knew it was there. It was almost a light bulb moment for the team, right? Because it made us realize that hey, bots don't need PTO, and they never miss a mistake that's kind of made there. So that's help. That's
Yeah.
huge.
And how do you keep unattended processing secure and controlled?
um, Security is like the most critical thing, right? So that's something we always pay attention to. And what we can do here is we can enforce role-based access. So it basically enables like end-to-end encryption and in immutable audit logs. Which also is great during the whole audit process. So as you know, I've been a CFO for a biotech startup, and we were always handling sensitive R&D, grant funding. We designed really like strict escalation protocols. If a posting fails, for example, the bots retry thrice, then route exceptions to designated approvers and reviewers. So automation doesn't necessarily mean loss of control, right? In my opinion, it actually strengthens governance.
And looking forward, how do you see the 24/7 bot scaling versus competition?
The beauty of digital agents is the scalability part. As volumes grow, you can just spin up an additional agent, more capacity, no incremental license or headcount bottleneck. In bigger companies that I worked in, we dealt with billions in transactions, across 20 plus countries sometimes, and scalability was the biggest pain point, right? The only way you could do it is by throwing more and more people at it, and
Yeah.
that always added a lot of additional costs. So this 24/7 architecture eliminates that constraint.
And what's the bottom line impact of the nonstop finance bots?
um, Invoice cycle time goes down 40%. Early pay discounts are up 3 times. Vendor inquiries, I've seen them go down by up to 60%. And close is much faster than a day or even more sometimes. That's not just productivity. It's actual working capital gain. It's actual margin improvement, and it's real improved team morale. So this isn't just like a gimmick. The 24/7 ability through agents and bots, I think, is soon going to be a new baseline for digital finance operations.
Awesome. And that is all I had for you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.